Good day everyone. So in this video we're going to talk about a Pinoy game called Piko. So in this video we're going to share a short introduction of Piko, the history of Piko, rules of the game, how the game is played, the scoring system, and lastly the demonstration of the game.
Piko, also known as Hopscotch in English, was a popular game in the Philippines. It was popular during the 1980s, where children usually play in their pastime. This was mostly present from elementary students, and there are also other variations of the game to make it more fair and thrilling, such as not looking and tossing a rock. In other countries, some people say it originated in China or Rome, but the earliest record was in poor Robin's almanac with the name Scotch Hoppers.
In other countries, hopscotch is called Marelle in France, Tempelhopfen in Germany, Hinkelbaan in the Netherlands, Ikaria Dukaria in India, Pico in Vietnam, Rayuela in Argentina, and Pico in Philippines. The English term hopscotch comes from the word hop, which means to jump, and escouchir, an old French word meaning to cut. The latter word is also where we get the term scratch, as well as scotch a rumor or scratch it out, and butterscotch, which is a hard candy that is made in large sheets and then scotched or cut into small pieces.
Hopscotch, also known as Piko, began in ancient Britain during the early Roman Empire. The original hopscotch courts were over 100 feet long and used for military training exercise and used to improve their strength and agility. Roman foot soldiers ran the course in full armor and field packs to improve their footwork, much the same way modern football players run through rows of truck tires today. Roman children drew their own smaller courts in imitation of the soldiers, added scoring system, and hopscotch spread throughout Europe. The earliest recorded reference to the game of hopscotch was in Poor Robin's Almanac in 1677, where the game was called Scotch Hoppers. The symbolism behind the game was to overcome all obstacles, which were portrayed by the lines, to eventually reach the pot or cat's candle, which represented heaven.
Rules of the game Pico. So first, the more players are the more complex diagram and the sections are numbered or labeled to indicate the correct order in which the player to hop. So second, the first player starts by throwing his or her marker at the initial section. Then he or she hops onto the section and kicks his marker to the next designated section. The player continues his process until he or she gets to the final section. So third, at any time a player's marker touches a line or when any parts of his body touches a line, he or she surrenders the turn to the next player. So fourth, the first player to complete the diagram wins. So fifth, some games have another parts after the first, apparently to extend playing time. This part has the players looking towards the sky, then throwing his marker on the diagram. Without looking, he or she must walk across the diagram to pitch his marker without touching any lines. This stage is intentionally more difficult to give the other players a chance to catch up.
Piko is played by throwing the stone on the marked area. Try to aim for number 5. The player whose stone is the nearest to the number 5 is the first to play, and the stone furthest is the last one. The first player will throw the stone at the first box. Then he will jump across the area without stepping on the first box. Before he returns, he should pick up his stone still without jumping on the first box. It's the next player's turn. He will do what the first player did. After all the players get to turn, the first player will now throw his stone on the second box and repeat the procedure, now not stepping on the second box.
If a player steps on a line, they stop and let the next player try. They have to wait until their next turn to try again. The first player to reach the last box wins. Other variation of this game is done by the player looking towards the sky, then throwing his marker on the diagram. Without looking, he must walk across the diagram to fetch his marker without touching any lines. This stage is intentionally more difficult to give the other players a chance to catch up.
What is the scoring system for this game or how to determine the winner? There are 10th backs and the mechanics for this game was already explained by my group mates. So to determine the winner, the one to complete until the 10th backs will declare the winner of this game. So as long as you know how to play Piko, it will become easy for you, and I will tell you guys that Piko is very fun because I experienced playing this kind of game.
Ang Piko ay isang popular na larong pambata sa Pilipinas. Karaniwan itong nilalaro ng mga batang babae o kaya'y lalaki. Piko ay nilalaro ng 2 hanggang 8 tao sa pamamagitan ng pagguhit ng isang diagram. Maaari itong laruin sa malawak na lugar na sementado tulad ng kalsada. Bawat kalahok ay may kanya-kanyang pamato tulad ng isang bato. Sa pamamagitan ng pagtalon, kailangan lagpasan ng kalahok ang lahat ng bahagi ng diagram. Ang unang manlalaro ay ibabato ang kanyang pamato sa unang seksyon ng diagram at tatalon sa susunod na bahagi nito. Paulit-ulit nila itong gagawin hanggang matapos ang lahat ng bahagi ng diagram. Pag nakompleto na ang isang manlalaro ang lahat ng bahagi nito, maaari na siyang gumawa ng tinatawag na bahay na hindi maaaring tapakan ng ibang manlalaro. Ang pagpili ng bahay ay ginagawa sa pamamagitan ng pagtapon ng pamato habang nakatalikod ang manlalaro. Pag nagkamali ng bato ang manlalaro, papalitan siya ng ibang kalahok. Bawal din tumapak sa linya, tumalon sa ibang seksyon ng diagram, at madapa o kaya ay matumba. Ang manlalaro may pinakamadaming bahay o ang aabot sa pinakadulong bahagi ng diagram ang tatanghaling panalo. Karaniwang nagbibigay ng parusa ang nanalo sa mga kalaro niya.